10 minutes past the hour from AM America. Gary and Marlene with you on this Wednesday morning. 888-999-1787 is the way you join us. On Capitol Hill this week, as we've discussed, the Senate debating and preparing to vote on something called, well, it's actually a couple of pieces of rival legislation referred to as the Patients' Bill of Rights Plus Act. The Republican version, sponsored by Tennessee Senator Bill Frist, and he joins us via the telephone line this morning to explain the act and its implications, and perhaps comment on some of the commentary offered by the President and Senator Kennedy within the last 24 hours. Good morning to you, sir.
Yep.
Is he there?
He was there.
Oh, okay. Did we lose Senator Frist? I believe we have lost him. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll try to reestablish the connection. And in the meantime, I will tell you again, just to remind those of you who are unfamiliar with the rival, again, pieces of legislation offered by Republicans and Democrats on this issue, there are some sticking points, and about a half a dozen or so sticking points that they're attempting to iron out in what is, an attempt truly to be legislation that will result in enhanced consumer protections, better health care quality, increase individuals' rights of access to health care. The Republicans' act, the proposal, has obviously a number of major points, but again, one of the sticking points is that, is he with us now?
I think he is.
Oh, okay. One of the sticking points is on this issue of the right to sue. And I'll tell you what, instead of my going over this, I think he's back on the line with us now. Senator Frist, are you with us?
Gary, I'm with you.
Good morning.
Oh, good to hear you.
Good for you to
I'm
join
sitting here in our nation's capital. We're getting ready for a big day of debate on these two bills, and we're going to end up with a very good bill tomorrow night. But we're getting ready for a big day of debate.
Well, I was trying to summarize, and this is not an easily summarized piece of legislation that's been proposed.
No, I heard, and actually did a good job. And really it boils down to two pieces of legislation that have come to the floor. One is a Kennedy bill, and the other is a bill that I am a sponsor of, a Republican leadership bill. Both bills have as their goal to balance what has happened in the last few years, and that is that managed care, HMOs, have gotten into the position where they're in effect practicing medicine, telling doctors where they can admit people, for what indications, when they have to leave the hospital, what medicines they can use. And the pendulum has swung way over to where patients feel helpless and doctors feel helpless in terms of choosing their own health care. Mm-hmm. Now, the Kennedy bill and the Republican bill are very different. Our bill, the Patients' Bill of Rights Plus, looks at patient protections such as elimination of gag clauses that prevent physicians from telling the patients what all their alternatives are, access to specialists. So if you need an orthopedic or a bone surgeon or a heart surgeon, which is what I do, if you need a heart surgeon, you can have access to that heart surgeon. Things like continuity of care, that if you are in a health care plan and they drop your physician, that if you're pregnant, you can stay with that physician throughout the postpartum period. Using prudent layperson standards, so if you think you're sick, you can go to an emergency room and you'll be covered, even if it turns out to be indigestion instead of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Those are the strong patient protections that we have in our bill. The Kennedy bill, has many of those patient protections as well. Where we go further is to address quality issues, how to invest in measuring what quality is, information systems to disseminate that around the country, and then a third component to improve access through full deductibility, 100% deductibility of the insurance cost for self-employed individuals. And also, we improve access and by creating a more open system towards medical savings accounts where you can direct your own care. If you want alternative medicine, you can buy it. You use your own medical savings account. The Kennedy bill doesn't have either the quality component or the access components. What it does have is what you mentioned, and that is an ability to sue that brings the trial lawyers into the examining room in effect. And I'm very concerned about that, and I'll fight that on the floor today and tomorrow. I think we ought to fix the system, fix what's broken, instead of having unlimited lawsuits come into this examining room and this treatment room, which will drive healthcare costs sky high. And when you do that and your premium starts going up 10 and 15%, what happens? People start dropping their insurance. The Kennedy bill would end up putting about 1.8 million people to the ranks of the uninsured because of the increase in cost, in large part driven by the trial lawyers.
Let me ask you a question related to that point. Will Senator Kennedy's bill, in effect, make an employer liable for lawsuits if they administer health care plans for their employees, as we have suspected this morning in our discussions?
You know, there is no question. I mean, you can imagine if you are a health care plan and somebody comes out there and sues you, and first of all, you can sue your health care plan for malpractice today. For malpractice, bad practice, you can under the existing law. And, you know, some people say, no, you can't. Absolutely, under existing law, you can't.
And your bill would not change that, correct?
That's exactly right. Now, but we fixed the system so you would have very few lawsuits because you fix the problem up front, which is what we do instead of punishing the system with this heavy hammer of the trial lawyers. But what actually would happen is if you had a disagreement under our plan in terms of coverage, you go through whether or not a procedure should be covered in a very timely way. You'd go through an internal appeals process. Then you'd find the final decision would be made by an independent physician, medical expert, specialist outside of the plan. That's the way we fix the system instead of having the trial lawyers come in and have these 50, 60, 70, $80 million lawsuits. What happens if you're an insurance company and you get sued? What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to reach out and pull the doctor into the lawsuit. You're going to pull the employer into the lawsuit. And so you're going to have these small business owners all of a sudden being small business, for the most part, being sued with 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, $80 million lawsuits that'll be drawn into it. And obviously small business would have to close down. So the easiest thing for the small business company to do is drop the insurance. Well, we have 43 million people in this country who are uninsured today. And that's really, to me, as a physician, as a United States Senator, really unconscionable. And to have a plan on the table, the Kennedy plan, that puts another 2 million on the ranks of the uninsured, in large part because employers can't do it, is really going to be unacceptable, and it's not going to be a part of this final plan.
Senator, can we indulge upon your good nature and ask you to hang on for just a minute, and because I've got another question I want to ask you when we come back. Very good. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. We're chatting with Senator Bill Frist of Tennessee about the Patient's Bill of Rights. We'll be right back on AM America.
Are you ready for Y2K?